Are the Chicago Bulls one of the best teams of all time, or maybe just basically a one-man team ruling a league that's suffering through an off year or two? Hey, who better to ask than Don Chaney? He's played with Bill Russell and Larry Bird and Dave Cowens in between, and perhaps with Dave Cowens on one of the greatest teams of all time, the team with the third best record of all time, the '73 Celtics. The Bulls, I guess, are tied for fourth, Duck, with what they put up last year. There's so many great teams that have played in this league, but do you think the Bulls stack up?
Well, I think when you're comparing teams in terms of all-time great teams, George, there's a certain criteria that goes along with that. And in going over the Bulls roster, they have that. They have depth, they have talent, they have players who complement each other, they have a couple of stars, and there's an attitude. And I think that's something that's not talked about a lot, an attitude. The Celtics always said pride, but what it boils down to is an attitude. And they have a winning attitude, an attitude that they can win the championship.
Well, they've certainly proved it. It took them a while to overtake the Pistons, just like it took the Pistons a while to overtake the Celtics and then the Lakers. Once you get there, I know you don't want to give it up, do you? Once
you're there, once you've had that taste, you know, they say that sometimes it's like being on the desert and you get thirsty. Once your thirst is quenched, you're satisfied. But that's not the case in the championship. You get one, you want two. You get two, you want three. So it continues.
You know, I pointed out that Don played for the 1969 World Champions in Boston, also on a championship team in '74 in Boston. You've been around most of the great teams of all time, either having played on the team, played against the squad, or coached against them. What team, if you got to the heart of hearts of Don Chaney, and it's okay to let some of that Celtic pride of yours show through too, why not? What team do you think was the greatest team of all time?
Well, that's really difficult because when you're talking about championships, they all basically had that same ingredient, and they had that same depth. But there are so many teams that I liked back then. And I'm saying this simply because I was with the Celtics. The Celtics have always had great teams, great play. They had unselfish players. And the '73 team that didn't win the championship was my favorite team. Okay, I think that team was just a great basketball team in terms of balance. The team, the '86 team with Larry Bird, I thought that was a great team.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, I thought that team had balance, it had size, and when I think about it, that team, to me, would be the ideal team in terms of other teams being able to match up with, and the team that just had an offensive weapon, they had defensive players, they had post-up people, they had all the ingredients, and they had depth.
You know, Don, before the Bulls won it the second time, for sure, there were those who said this Chicago team could not have beaten that '86 Boston team, could not have beaten the Showtime Lakers, and couldn't have beaten the Bad Boys for that matter. Did they change your mind maybe after winning it a second time, or do they have to do it another time?
Well, I think when you're going up against the Chicago Bulls, because of who they are, and they're the team to watch now, I think by them winning the second championship convinced me that they belong in the elite category. Now, naturally, to put them in a higher category in terms of the all-time great, I think they got to win it one more time to totally convince me.
Do you think they can win it one more time?
I think it's a possibility. That's a very difficult thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's hard to say. It's very early. They've made additions. They will help their team. They can have an extra year of experience. I don't know. That's out. The jury's out on that one. But I think they're capable of, yes, of repeating.
Well, stay tuned. It's a long season, and the Pistons know all about trying to repeat and win again and again, and so does Don Chaney. Thanks for joining us, Doc.
Thank you, Josh.